Hi, I'm Marya, and this is Marya's Musings coming to you from Costa Rica today. um, I am really excited because today this is a special episode, and we're talking about what if healing isn't what we thought? Lessons on turning pain to power, because that's what I have been doing personally and also professionally through Brown Girl Interrupting for the last 4 years, literally 4 years. Um, this is Marya's Musings, just so you know. It's a space where you walk with me as I process life and I'm finding meaning, making connections, and offering others the same tools that I have been using to look within. So, welcome. If you haven't done it yet, please make sure that you like this show right now that you're watching, whether you're watching the live with me right now, and make sure that you comment if you are so we can have a conversation. And if not, you're watching the rebroadcast, like, comment, subscribe to this channel so you're here every week with me on Pain to Power, which I'm going to be talking about in a few moments, which is my show of interviews every Sunday at 8 p.m. And when I go live on Marya's Musings, which could be at any point because that's on a whim, but they keep coming. So stay tuned, pay attention, and stay with me. So, what if healing isn't what we thought? What if really we've been doing it the wrong way? So, this episode today is really about that. And it's about the lessons that I learned through Pain to Power, which is the show that I created on YouTube on this channel, Brown Girl Interrupting. And it started 4 years ago, literally 4 years ago. And what very few people know is how much was going on in my life at the time that I launched the show on January 9th, 2022. That was my very first episode. And at the time, I was healing. I was going through some serious, challenging healing moments where literally my life had been turned upside down in every way possible. And I think every relationship was hurting my heart more than I could imagine. My children hated me, didn't want to talk to me. My ex had put me through the ringer in court, and I was going to have to pay child support to him and had no idea how I was going to do it. And I was heartbroken from a recent relationship with someone that really put me under. So January 9th, I decided with all that pain, well, why not start a show and turn our pain into our power? Because that's what I do. And that's what I was doing. But what I didn't know was how impactful this process of turning my pain into power and having people just recognize and understand the journey of turning pain into power with others was going to be. So, if you're joining me now, please make sure again that you subscribe, you like, you comment, share a comment with me now so we can have an interactive conversation. And that's it. The whole idea is how do we turn pain into power? And what have I learned? Well, one of the things that I've learned is that healing is one of the most overused and misunderstood words right now. And it is. And I think a lot of it is because there's confusion on, well, what does that really mean to heal? I think there's an idea that healing is about total wholeness and peace and everything just being great and you showing up as this wonderful, loving, perfect person everywhere you go. That's not healing. That's not healing. Healing is actually messy and it's pretty quiet. If you're really doing it right, it's you doing it internally. It's not showing it with the world. It's not constantly always talking about it, which I know sometimes I was. But I've learned over the years to start holding it in a little bit more. And the most important part is that it's honest. And honest can be painful because to heal, we not only need to know what we've experienced, but we need to understand our own role in it. So, this episode is really more about what I had to unlearn not necessarily what I've mastered, because unlearning is a lifelong process in many ways, and healing is a lifelong evolution. I learned that from my show too. Angel Pendergrass. She taught me this idea of healing as an evolution, not a journey, because there's no one final destination. I need to adjust, friends, so I can be comfortable. There's no one final destination. It truly is that we are constantly going to be evolving and learning how to deal with life in the moments that it happens and the moments that the challenge happen, and do it better every time. So as you're listening to me sharing, and hopefully also commenting, share a like if you're in there. So just, give me a shout out, something in the comments. But as you're listening, okay. As you're listening, I would love to know just what's standing out for you. So think about, like, what are you holding on to yourself, or what might not actually be something that you're required to be doing. And if you haven't done it yet, please make sure you subscribe to this channel on YouTube. You leave a comment and share what resonated with you. And we will keep just learning. There's some trolling going on, and I'm trying to ignore it. Okay, this is me in production mode, and friends, what you have to understand, and let me just say, this show, in addition to Pain Power, is also brought with you to in association with the iRant Network, which if you haven't done it yet, in addition to just subscribing to me, go and check out the iRant Network, where there is where we are on the Roku TV. So if you have a TV that has a Roku device, go and take your device, download the iRant channel, and you will find BGI TV, which is a 24-hour channel on the iRant network. You'll also see several other channels, and you'll see episodes of Pain to Power, and episodes of shows I've been on, and episodes of other things happening. Make sure you go and do that right now, because there's just so much there. And definitely something for us to explore and know, and for you to have in your toolbox, because there's so many shows and you never know which one's going to hit you and which conversation is the one that really will resonate with you. All right, so let's get into it. First off, oh, wait, I gotta find my slides for you. All right, so as I connect my slides for you, which we're doing right now, there we go. All right. First lesson: healing isn't becoming fearless, it's becoming honest. Here we go, right? First lesson. It isn't becoming fearless, it's really becoming honest, which means that most of my guests didn't lose fear. They didn't stop being fearful. But what they started to do is not lie to themselves anymore. And maybe you're in that same place where you felt fearful, you worried, you weren't sure exactly what was happening for you, how you feel about life. And you started to become more honest with yourself. You're not afraid of your shadows. You're not afraid of the mistakes you made. You're not afraid of the things that that you've done in your past, or that you've experienced in your past, right? They had the courage to show up as truth tellers. So it doesn't always mean they're confident, although they became more confident through truth telling, but they're truth tellers. They're telling the truth about themselves, about their lives, about their stories. And sometimes those truths were painful, and sometimes those truths were messy, and they weren't always comfortable and easy to accept, right? But they did that. And in that fearlessness, or not fearlessness, but honestness, in honesty, healing is asking for presence, not performance. So for all of the individuals that I talked to, it really was about being present with themselves. That means they did things that required them to be present. There was a lot of journaling. There's a lot of people who talk to each other and talk to themselves in the mirror, right? Like you'll hear it. It's a common thread in a lot of patterns. Or even the presence of taking the next step and going to see a therapist or a counselor and sharing their stories with them. So, all of that is why healing isn't about becoming fearless, it's about being honest. And then, lesson number two, healing isn't fixing the past, it's changing how we relate to it. How do you relate to your healing? That's a weird thing, right? Because oftentimes I think that we were, and maybe I was under the impression that healing was about um like, okay, well, this thing happened to me. I'm going to fix it. And now I'm not going to think about it anymore. And then it's done and it's over and I've healed and I've moved on. But that's not healing. You don't erase what happens to you. What you realize is that everything happens for you and not to you. And so, whatever that experience was, whatever painful moment it was that those guests had gone through, that I've gone through, that maybe you've gone through, is all part of the journey and the evolution of your healing. So, it's not necessarily about moving on, it's actually something gentler about just being more human and integrating your past in order to rewrite and reframe the story of your present and your future. It's part of who you are, but it doesn't define you. That's what healing is. That's what the story of your pain might be. It's part of who you are, but it doesn't define you. All right, lesson three. Lesson three is healing doesn't make you pleasant. It makes you clear. Oh, Lord, that's a real one, friends. That's a real one. Healing does not make you present, it makes you clear, right? So, um, here's how I know this one because you lose people. When you heal, you lose people. Because your healing, and this happened many times with many people I've talked to on my show, your healing may trigger someone else who's unhealed, and they are losing the person that was unhealed that showed up the way that they did with them. So there's a lot of friction. There's a lot of friction. And the clarity is oftentimes in who really is for you and who is not, right? So a lot of my guest learn became harder um, to understand, right? They were misunderstood. They were not easier to like, but they were happier with themselves, even if it wasn't for others. And then they had boundaries. That was a big one. That's a big theme that comes up is your boundaries. And that is one of the themes that I've taken away quite a bit is my boundaries in recognizing what needs my attention and what doesn't. Um, whether it's comments in the chat that don't need my attention right now, or it's the frustration of someone in my life that's trying to pull me in, trying to goat me or bait me into a place and a space that I don't want to be in. So it might be uncomfortable for someone who's used to my responses and reactiveness, but my proactivity, and that's what healing is, it's proactive, allows me to not be baited, to not be fall into those traps of not putting up my boundaries with people. I'm more discerning. We are all more discerning and disruptive in our relationships. And that is part of our boundaries, right? That is part of our healing. And it's again where we're getting clarity, right? So, and then, okay, so healing isn't a solo journey, even when it starts alone. So this is our number, put it right up there. Here we go. Number 4, healing isn't a solo journey, even when it starts alone. That was actually a really hard one for me because it's really easy and clean to heal in private sometimes. Like it's easy. I'm like, oh, I got this. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna talk about the things I need to talk to. My therapist knows. I know. I'm good. But the real test of healing, and this came up in patterns with many of my guests over the time in Pain to Power, is that it's actually when you're in relationship with others, it's actually when you have to face someone else and their personality and their needs and decide, do I need to put up a boundary here? Can I hold my own boundaries? Do I know myself enough to stay solid, whether that's in the positive moments or in the difficult moments? Because healing also means the way that we take in those positive moments. Do we get swept away and lose ourselves? Or do we stay grounded and appreciate joy, appreciate the good people in our life, but not lose ourselves? So, transformation is actually happening in relationships. It's when we start to take all that insight from our solitude and put it into practice in love, in conflicts, in repair, and just witnessing our lives and showing up across all the stories and all the things of who we are. So, this is that other lesson in healing, right? That we need to take away. And I didn't say it yet, and I don't know why I didn't say it, but friends, this is all working up to the fact that I have been doing Pain to Power and learned all these lessons in over now 99 episodes, which means on Sunday, January 11th, is my 100th episode of Pain to Power. That's why we're doing this healing countdown for my 100th episode coming up on Sunday, January 11th at 8 p.m. on this channel, Brown Girl Interrupting. So make sure you subscribe and you hit the bell so that you go for that live. And the live is going to be a very, very special episode where the event that I planned and executed on January of 2025, which was my very first live event called Healing with Humor, is going to be aired, the full episode, so you can see what the event was like, the energy of the space, and hopefully know that you'll come and join me for my next live event, which will be coming up in spring this year. Stay tuned for more on that one. All right, so we're all about healing. We've done 4 of these lessons. The 5th lesson, healing isn't about high vibration, it's about emotional range. Okay. Now that's a real one because I think for me, before I started this show, as I was going through this breaking of everything in my life at the time, I thought healing was going to be, like, rainbows and beautiful things. And I was going to be like this ethereal, at the flow moment woman who just had it all together and was so zen all the time. Mm-mm. Nope, nope, nope. That's not healing, right? Healing is about emotional range, which means, in easy terms, right, is that we are actually able to be all the different parts of ourselves and give them space and honor them. It's a lot like the idea of almost like recognizing all of your parts. I've been starting this parts work with my therapist, and I think about it a lot because there are parts of ourselves that exist, and we need to love all those parts of ourselves and honor all those parts of ourselves and allow them all to exist. And that's the younger parts, that's the older parts, that's the present parts, that's the complicated parts. So healing is about that emotional range of recognizing that all those parts exist and that we are in all of them, that we are embodying each of them in the most beautiful ways. So it's not suppressing emotions, right? So my guests who were doing well, and they were doing great. They were doing amazing things. They are doing amazing things, and they're in this healing space, but they also give themselves space to be angry, to hold grief, to have rage, to have regret at times, to feel sadness, right? Like all of those things, and joy, appreciation, value, right? Healing is about all of these emotions existing and allowing them to be part of your wholeness and part of your authenticity. So I've cried on here before because that's part of healing. I've laughed on here before because that's part of healing. I've shared stories about painful things. I've shared stories about things of beauty on here because that is healing. So wholeness is recognizing that we have this range of different experiences. Healing doesn't erase grief, it often reveals it. Number 6, right? So, what I started to learn is that my tears weren't always about the situation that I was in, the trauma. And for me, when I walked into this, it was a lot of the pain of being married for 17 years in a damaging and destructive marriage. But what I realized through the show, through Pain to Power, through the lessons I've gained from people, is that it wasn't always about that circumstance or even that person. It was that I lost parts of myself. It was unlived lives sometimes, unmet needs. So healing is not necessarily about erasing your grief. It's about actually examining and revealing what is that grief for? Because oftentimes some of the things that create us pain are really patterns that resurface in new ways with just a new language and term and story. So we have to get to the heart of it. Which, speaking of getting to the heart of things, I got to invite y'all to my upcoming courses, Empowerment Unlocked, which is all about this learning and journey that I've had, where I focus on my framework return, which is all about reclaiming our stories through examination and transforming our mindsets, as well as unlearning patterns. I've gained some of them from this show. I've gained a lot of them from my work and my learning, and I've gained most of it from my own personal experience of going from a woman who could barely really even see herself to someone who is leading others to heal, leading others through her stories, leading others to share their stories on Pain to Power. So if I can do it as someone who really never saw herself in these positions, in this story, in this life, I know that there are so many other people out there who just need to see and know who they are to know their own power. And that's all it is. It's simply knowing our own power. So join me for Empowerment Unlocked, which is a 5-week guided course online with me, guiding you in a community of people who are living lives that require us to have some examination and break some patterns. And that's what we're going to be doing at Empowerment Unlock. It starts January 22nd. Don't miss the deadline for the low cost of $49 for 5 weeks of guided conversations, takeaway homework, tools that you get to apply to your life right away because they're practical and they make sense. And all with me in January, starting January 22nd. So the early bird special of $49 and the seats are open until January 11th. And then the price will go up, but seats are still open and places are limited. So make sure you secure yours. All right, enough for the spiel. Now we're back to our lessons, right? So lesson number 7, healing isn't linear. Healing is not linear. That is so, 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 so important because we want so badly for life to be linear. We want things to be a straight shot, and healing is one of those things that is not. It is so messy. You are going to be on one path and then you'll turn another way. And maybe you're guided that way, but maybe that way also has some obstacles you've got to still overcome. And then you're back to another path. It is not linear. You will resurface wounds that you don't even realize in moments that you're not ready for. But healing means that every time they come, you have more tools to approach them, and you approach them with more ease. They'll be new or they'll be familiar, but you'll be ready. So it's not linear. You're going to have setbacks, moments where you might even forget the tools because, Lord, we're human, right? We're human. But it is evolution. And that's why it's not a journey, it's an evolution, because it's not a straight shot. It's constantly relearning and new learning and reframing and applying and integrating it. But I will tell you, from someone who has been healing deeply for 4 years through things that I didn't think I was ever going to leave, through moments that keep happening throughout those 4 years, I am more clear. I am more intentional. I am stronger and show up for myself and therefore for others, because I have taken these steps, because I recognize all these lessons and integrate them and know that it won't be linear, that tomorrow I might wake up and some massive thing might happen in my life and I have to face it. I have to face it for myself. I have to face it to heal through it. And then I've got to be ready to support other people through it. And that's part of recognizing that it's not linear. And people often carry that feeling of shame sometimes because they're revisiting old wounds, but that's okay. That's part of the process. All right, lesson number 8. Healing doesn't separate accountability from compassion. So the most grounded guests own their choices without punishment. That means that we recognize that our journey was purposeful and had intention, and there was a reason that we went through it. We're not punishing ourselves. It's not about feeling guilty. It's about recognizing we did what we could with the tools that we had at the moment that we were experiencing it. And it either gave us a lesson, a blessing, or something to walk away with and now apply differently, right? So it's about recognizing that accountability, right? Real power actually comes from recognizing not just what happened to me, not just who did it to me, but also what did I do? What did I allow? These are some of the things, friends, we're going to talk about Empowerment Unlocked. So make sure you join me January 22nd. All the link and info is in the information below here on YouTube. But so that's where the power really emerges, in your own accountability and compassion for yourself. All right, lesson number 9. Healing isn't about being understood by everyone. Lord knows it is not. I need y'all to go check me out on Substack. I'm also a writer, and I write, and I've been writing and writing and writing about this idea. And yeah, it's not about being understood. And I think most of my life is not about, I have not been understood, but it is about understanding yourself. And here's the beautiful, most beautiful thing. And this is where pain to power comes in, because I've gotten this from my guests, is that the more you heal yourself, the more you recognize your accountability, the more you live in your authenticity, you will bring the people in that do understand, and they will stay because they recognize that healing is messy, and you'll have your good days and you'll have your off days. But the core of you is someone who's solid, who knows themselves, who knows and recognizes others. So healing isn't about being understood by everyone, but there's a freedom that comes from not explaining yourself anymore, from not trying to be the person that everyone wants you to be. And my guests talk about that, and they've talked about that for many years. So not everybody came along with them on their journeys. In fact, a lot of part of their healing was losing people along the way that didn't align with the path that they were going on, because either those people wanted to stay in the patterns they were in, or sometimes they just didn't recognize that they themselves needed to heal. I always say this, and we say this often on the show, is healing is a choice. But I appreciate it because actually just recently when I interviewed Wink Loke on episode 21 of Pain to Power, season 5, he mentioned the fact that, but not everybody has the knowledge of what healing could look like. So that's where we need resources. I'm a resource friend. Join me on Pain to Power. I am a resource that can help guide you to learn about how we turn our pain into our power. So join me on Pain to Power every Sunday at 8 p.m. and especially on January 11th, which is the 100th episode. 5 seasons and 100 episodes. That is no small feat, friends. I'm proud of myself and I'm proud of y'all for staying with me through these 5 seasons and all these episodes, whether you caught 10, 30, or maybe just one, or even 30 minutes of one. You joined me, and we're just going to keep having more people join. So if you haven't done it yet, please make sure you share this with someone too, so that they can join me on this journey of healing, because we need the tools. And sometimes that's hearing someone else's story. And sometimes that's just getting the permission to experience all the things that go into healing, the permission to say, I was harmed and now I need to figure out what I did or what was happened to me and how am I going to move forward from this. That permission of speaking our truth is huge. So, lesson number 10. This is our final one, friends. And if you haven't done it yet, please make sure you subscribe, like, comment, leave a comment right now. Join me in the chat. I'm looking for those comments of people who want to talk about healing and growth and how this might be resonating with you. Did something sit with you where it came to a lesson here? Are you taking away something? Do you have your own healing journey you want to share? Questions for me about my journey or about Pain to Power and what we've been doing. All right, drum roll, friends. This is it. I don't have a drum roll thing here, do I? Oh, I might. Let's see. Maybe I have a drum roll. Do you have a drum roll? Oh, I have this. Drum roll. There we go. All right, drum roll. And number 10. You ready? I love it. All right. Lesson number 10. Healing doesn't end when the story is told. It begins there. That is so important, because I was listening to Brianna West, I believe that's her name. She wrote the book The Pivot Year, and it's 365 days of great messages on what you need to do to heal. But that's the starting point. The starting point is the awareness, right? So awareness is when we tell the story. Good. You told your story. That is step number 1. But that's not the end. It's the threshold towards that finish line, towards, and really not a finish line. It's the threshold towards that evolution that you're about to take. So once you identify some of your story, once you've said it out loud, you've taken the very first step, but it's the integration of recognizing how that story keeps showing up in your life. It's the reflection of the moments when your body is telling you that story is coming back, maybe with someone else, but it's coming back. That pattern, that fear, that anxiety, that worry, that distrust in yourself. And it's practicing. It's practicing. I mean, what does the kid say? I mean, I say this to my daughter all the time. Practice makes better. It doesn't make perfect, it makes better. You have to practice your healing tools, the stories that you need to tell yourself, the reframing and the mindsets, the tool of breathing or pausing or grounding yourself, whatever it is, you have to practice them in micro moments so that when the big macro moments happen, you are prepared. You have the tools already. They're part of your toolbox, and literally, you're going to take them out of your toolbox and use them, right? I'm an educator, friends. I use my hands to speak. That's what I do. But that's it, right? So, for example, you're sitting in traffic and you're frustrated because it's stop and go. You're trying to get to where you need to, and you know you need to get there because that's a massive, it's a frustration, right? It's not massive, it's a small scale problem, right? Let's talk about it as third world issue or first world issues, right? But you're frustrated, and that's a real feeling. So honor your frustration. Honor your frustration. Don't sit in it too long though. And find the tool you need. Do you need to breathe through that? Do you need to just recognize how your body is tensing? And because you're tensing, maybe you're starting to get short with the toddler in the back of your car because they're making noises or they're talking. Or maybe you're cussing people out around you because, well, your anger is boiling up to the surface, right? That's your micro moment. That's literally your micro moments. If you're listening to this in the car right now, take your micro moment. If you're stuck in traffic, do the tools. Try it out in the micro moments so that when the big macro ones come, when the big ones, when you're in a massive argument with someone you really care about and they are saying things to you that you are not expecting them to say, and your heart is hurting and your mind is racing and you're feeling so angry and so like untrusting, or your voice is gone, that's when you now can apply that same practice you sat in the car and did in traffic because you've done those practice moments and micro moments so that the macro is easier to approach. And it might be a little different in the macro. For me, my macro is I run. I run. It's happened many times, and running doesn't always mean run away. It sometimes just means walk away and breathe because I need to listen to myself again. And that's what I've learned, right? That's what my guests have taught me is that we have to take these tools and these frameworks that we're given and think about them outside of the conversation, outside of the interview, outside of the post you put on Instagram. But how does it feel when you're quiet and by yourself? That's healing. That's what healing has been. So, hosting Pain to Power has changed my life. It's changed how I listen to pain, it's changed how I listen to myself, what I know about myself. And it's given me so many tools. And I hope today has given you so many tools of the 10 different things that I've learned about healing. And it's allowing me to just become better, better at nothing more than being me, authentically Marya. And so the exciting thing about the time of this show right now and the time of my very first episode is that January 8th is my birthday, which is this Thursday. And it was the day before Pain to Power launched in 2022. And on January 11th, I'm not only celebrating my 100th show, I'm celebrating my 48th birthday with all of you and in a space that has grown me. Got to give a shout out to my amazing producer, Montaigne Massick, and then to my over 90 guests, can't name them all, who have given me the tools, the stories, the opportunity, the different pathways and networks that have come from being a part of Pain to Power, from sharing how I see the world to allowing a space for others to show me how they see it, how they've experienced it, and then helping others. And that's what the purpose of this is. The purpose of Pain to Power is to heal in community, because the very first step is to choose to heal. And not everybody does it. So if you're doing it, if you're with me, if you've stayed with me through all these years, thank you. And if you haven't, come join me and start the journey with Marya, start the journey with Pain to Power and the iRant network. And this milestone is really one where I hope now, as you watch the 100th episode, that you're looking at it with a lens of healing that's a little softer on yourself and on others around you. So Sunday, January 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to launch the 100th episode. I love saying it, makes me happy. 100 episodes, that's 100 stories told. That's 100 different people I've talked to. That's 100 lessons I've learned. And I've brought them to you and to my audience to gain from. So join me, and make sure they haven't done it yet, that you subscribe to this channel, hit the little bell, hit the like button, leave a comment of what resonated with you, what was the lesson that you're taking away, what is something that's holding on to for you. And I'm also a writer. I did mention that. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but I am a writer, and I write on Substack. So join me on Substack. I put the link below here too. And join the Empowerment Unlocked course. We start January 22nd. All the information and link is in my bio on IG, which follow me on IG, Facebook, TikTok. All of the information is there. It is a course where we are doing just this. I am putting to work all of the things I have learned through my own healing and through the healing journey of many, many, many other people, all connecting it to our identity and our socialization, which is my work for the last over a decade in education in race and equity. So join me at Empowerment Unlocked for 5 weeks of guided conversations and community in healing and understanding our own patterns and coming home to ourselves. And join me for these episodes of Marya's Musings. Let me know, what would you like to talk about next? Leave a comment, share, like, and thank you. Peace, love, and always reach for and see the light.